They appeared on a Tuesday morning, their ships blotting out the sun like obsidian clouds. The Draconian Fleet, spanning 20 kilometers of Earth's atmosphere, cast shadows over major cities worldwide. Their arrival sent global defense systems into chaos as humanity faced its first contact with an advanced alien civilization. Commander Thex stood on the bridge of the Sovereign Void, his crystalline eyes reflecting the blue planet below. The Draconians had conquered 17 civilizations across 3 galaxies, their biomechanical technology rendering resistance futile. Each vessel in their fleet was a living weapon, powered by collective consciousness and quantum drives that defied known physics. In Washington, D.C., Defense Director Isabella Santos watched the aerial feed with calculated composure. Unlike her panicking colleagues, she maintained an unsettling calm. The underground facility, known as Project Oracle, had prepared for this moment for 15 years. While other nations scrambled to aim their nuclear arsenals skyward, she knew conventional weapons would be useless against the visitors. "Transmission incoming," announced Lieutenant Reed, his voice steady despite the circumstances. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Commander Thex's imposing figure. The Draconian leader's metallic-scaled skin and geometric patterns highlighted their artificial evolution, a species that had merged with their technology centuries ago. "People of Earth," Thex's translated voice resonated through global communications networks. "Your world is now under Draconian protection. Resistance is inefficient. Submit to integration, and your species will serve a greater purpose in our collective." In the Oracle facility, Isabella exchanged glances with Chief Scientist Raj Patel. Their secret weapon, hidden in orbital satellites and atmospheric processors, remained undetected by the Draconian scanners. "Begin protocol harmony," she whispered, initiating a sequence that would challenge everything the invaders understood about consciousness and control. The first Draconian dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their biomechanical hulls adapting to the planet's conditions. Each carrier contained hundreds of soldiers, their minds linked in perfect synchronization through the collective network. They expected the usual response, either military resistance or immediate surrender. What they encountered was neither. Cities remained eerily calm. No missiles launched, no armies mobilized. The Draconian ground forces emerged from their ships, each soldier standing 3 meters tall in living armor that could regenerate from most damage. They moved through empty streets, their sensors detecting human life signs, but finding no organized resistance. Commander Thex observed the unusual response from his command center. In 17 conquests, no species had ever reacted this way. The lack of resistance triggered something unfamiliar in his enhanced mind. Uncertainty. Unknown to him, Earth's apparent submission masked a defense strategy unlike anything in galactic history. Deep within Project Oracle, Isabella activated the quantum field generators. The technology, developed through decades of secret research, didn't target the Draconians' physical forms. Instead, it would affect something far more fundamental, the very nature of their collective consciousness. As the first day of invasion ended, Draconian forces established preliminary control points in major cities. Their bioorganic computers processed data, analyzing Earth's infrastructure and population centers. Everything proceeded according to standard conquest protocols, yet something felt different. Subtle changes began manifesting in their neural network, too slight to trigger alarms, but profound enough to plant seeds of transformation. Commander Thex stood watching Earth's sunset, an unnecessary action for an Draconian leader. For a moment, he experienced an alien sensation, appreciation for the aesthetic beauty before him. The thought disturbed him, but before he could analyze it, reports of successful deployments demanded his attention. The invasion was proceeding perfectly, yet deep in his enhanced consciousness, an unfamiliar doubt began to stir. The first phase of Earth's defense had begun, invisible and insidious, targeting not the Draconians' superior technology or overwhelming military might, but something they had sacrificed centuries ago in their quest for perfection: their capacity for individual thought and emotional understanding. Humanity's response to invasion would redefine the nature of resistance, not through force, but through the power of consciousness itself. 3 days into the invasion, the first anomalies appeared in the Athraxian neural network. Lieutenant Vex, leading a reconnaissance unit through Tokyo, paused mid-stride when he heard music drifting from an abandoned concert hall. The sound triggered something unprecedented in his enhanced consciousness, an emotional response that wasn't part of his programming. In Project Oracle's command center, Isabella Santos monitored the quantum field's effects through advanced neural imaging. The invisible web of quantum particles was beginning to interact with the Athraxians' collective consciousness, introducing subtle variations into their unified thought patterns. Besides her, Raj Patel analyzed the incoming data with growing excitement. The quantum field is creating micro-disruptions in their neural synchronization, he reported, pointing to the holographic display showing the Athraxian fleet's neural patterns. What had once been a perfect geometric pattern of synchronized thought was now showing tiny irregularities, like ripples in a still pond. Commander Thex noticed the changes too, though he couldn't understand their significance. His officers were behaving strangely, asking questions that went beyond their programmed parameters. During a routine strategic meeting, Captain Nera had stopped mid-report to ask about human art preserved in the cities they occupied. Such curiosity was alien to their species, yet it was spreading through the ranks like a virus. The Athraxian ground forces experienced the most dramatic transformations. Soldiers stationed in cultural centers began showing interest in human creativity. In Rome, a squad delayed their patrol to watch street artists. In Mumbai, others found themselves drawn to the colors and patterns of local textiles. These were more than simple distractions. They were the first cracks in centuries of rigid conditioning. At the orbital command center, Thex struggled with unfamiliar sensations. Watching Earth rotate below, he felt something beyond tactical assessment, a sense of wonder at its beauty. The feeling disturbed him deeply, yet he couldn't dismiss it. The quantum field was affecting him too, awakening long-dormant neural pathways that his species had suppressed in their quest for perfect efficiency. Isabella's team monitored these developments with careful optimism. The quantum field wasn't just disrupting the Athraxians' collective consciousness, it was reintroducing concepts their species had abandoned generations ago: individuality, creativity, emotional awareness. Each passing hour brought new reports of unusual behavior among the invading forces. In their drop ships and command centers, Athraxian officers began experiencing unprecedented psychological changes. Their dreams, once filled with tactical data and mission parameters, now contained images and sensations they couldn't categorize. Some reported feeling emotions they had no words to describe, their enhanced minds struggling to process these new experiences. The most significant change came during a routine security sweep in New York. An Athraxian patrol encountered a group of children drawing with chalk on a hidden basement wall. Instead of processing them as potential threats, the soldiers stopped to watch. One of them, breaking centuries of conditioning, asked the children to explain their artwork. This simple interaction sent shockwaves through the collective consciousness. Raj noticed the quantum field's effects were accelerating. "The changes are becoming exponential," he told Isabella, showing her the latest neural scans. Their collective consciousness isn't just fragmenting. It's evolving into something new. The Athraxians' perfect unity was giving way to a more complex form of awareness, one that preserved their connection while allowing for individual thought and emotion. Commander Thex felt the transformation in his own consciousness. Watching his troops' behavior change, he should have initiated containment protocols. Instead, he found himself fascinated by these new patterns of thought. The rigid structure of Athraxian society had always seemed perfect, yet now he began to see something profound in humanity's apparent chaos and creativity. As the quantum pulse continued its subtle work, the invasion force faced a crisis unlike any in their history. Their superior technology and military might remain unchanged, but their understanding of themselves and their purpose was shifting fundamentally. Earth's defense wasn't fighting their strength. It was awakening something they had lost long ago in their pursuit of perfection. The second phase of humanity's response to invasion was complete, but its consequences were just beginning to unfold. In the days ahead, the Athraxian fleet would face a challenge no amount of military training could have prepared them for: the rediscovery of their own humanity. The Athraxian fleet's perfect formation began to break 1 week into the invasion. Ships that once moved in precise geometric patterns started shifting positions, their movements reflecting the growing individuality of their commanders. On the Sovereign Void's bridge, Commander Thex received increasingly concerning reports of protocol violations across the fleet. Lieutenant Vex's unit in Tokyo had completely abandoned their patrol schedule to spend time in the city's art districts. In Paris, another squadron requested permission to attend a symphony performance. Most alarming were the questions flowing through the collective network, not tactical inquiries, but philosophical wonderings about purpose, beauty, and the nature of existence. Isabella Santos and her team at Project Oracle monitored these developments with growing satisfaction. The quantum field had evolved beyond their expectations, creating a cascade of psychological changes throughout the Athraxian hierarchy. Their neural patterns are showing increased complexity, Raj reported, pointing to the swirling patterns on his displays. They're developing emotional intelligence at an exponential rate. The transformation manifested most dramatically in the Athraxians' communication networks. What once carried only mission data and tactical updates now buzzed with discussions about human culture, art, and innovation. Some officers began composing poetry, an act that would have been considered mental corruption just days earlier. Others started creating visual art using their biomechanical interfaces in ways never intended by their designers. Commander Thex found himself unable to maintain the rigid control structure that had defined Athraxian society for centuries. His own thoughts had become contaminated with questions that had no place in their perfect system. Watching Earth's oceans from orbit, he experienced something unprecedented, a sense of connection to the planet that went beyond strategic value. The breakdown in collective consciousness created ripples throughout the invasion force. Dropships refused to maintain formation, their pilots drawn to explore Earth's natural wonders. Ground troops began engaging in unauthorized interactions with humans, seeking to understand their art, music, and stories. The Athraxian military machine, once a model of perfect efficiency, was transforming into something organic and unpredictable. In Project Oracle, Isabella recognized the critical moment approaching. The quantum field isn't just affecting their minds, she explained to her team. It's reawakening neural pathways their species severed generations ago. They're remembering how to feel. The Athraxians' pursuit of perfection had led them to eliminate emotion and individuality, but humanity's defense strategy was restoring what they had lost. Aboard the Sovereign Void, Captain Naira approached Commander Thex with an unprecedented request. "Sir," she said, her voice carrying unfamiliar emotional undertones, "I believe we need to reevaluate our understanding of advancement." She presented him with a holographic display, not of tactical data, but of human children playing in a park. Their imperfection contains something we lost. The collective network, once a symphony of synchronized thought, had become a chaos of individual voices. Some Athraxian soldiers reported experiencing dreams for the first time in their species' recorded history. Others began creating music using their neural interfaces, producing sounds that merged their biomechanical nature with newly discovered emotional expression. As the third week of invasion began, the Athraxian fleet faced a crisis of consciousness. Their military superiority remained absolute, but their will to use it was crumbling. Commander Thex found himself experiencing an emotion he had no name for, a deep resonance with the world they had come to conquer, and a growing uncertainty about the purpose of their mission. The transformation spread through the fleet like a cascade of awakening. Ships began breaking formation, not out of tactical necessity, but from a newly discovered desire to experience space from individual perspectives. The perfect geometric patterns of their fleet gave way to organic arrangements that reflected their evolving consciousness. Humanity's defense had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, but its ultimate consequence remained uncertain. As the Athraxian collective consciousness fractured and reformed into something new, the invasion force stood at a crossroads. Their technology made them gods, but their awakening consciousness was teaching them the value of mortality and imperfection. 1 month into what should have been a routine conquest, the Athraxian fleet hung in Earth's orbit like a scattered constellation, their once perfect formation now an organic array of individual positions. Commander Thex stood in his private chamber aboard the Sovereign Void, experiencing an emotion he had finally identified: doubt. The quantum field had transformed the invasion force beyond recognition. The collective consciousness that had guided their species for millennia had evolved into something unprecedented, a network of individual minds linked by understanding rather than control. Ships that once moved as one now chose their own paths, their crews exploring human culture with newfound fascination. In Project Oracle, Isabella Santos received confirmation of what she had hoped for. The transformation has reached critical mass, Raj announced, his displays showing the complex neural patterns of the Athraxian fleet. Their collective consciousness hasn't just fragmented. It's evolved into a new form of connected individuality. The changes manifested most dramatically in the ground forces. Athraxian soldiers, once perfect warriors, began creating art installations using their biomechanical technology. In Berlin, a squad transformed their dropship into a living sculpture. In Cairo, others used their neural interfaces to compose symphonies that merged alien harmonics with human musical traditions. Commander Thex faced a decision that would reshape galactic history. The Athraxian Empire's Council had noticed the fleet's strange behavior and demanded immediate action. Their orders were clear: either complete the conquest or destroy the planet to prevent the spread of this consciousness contamination. But Thex had changed too deeply. Through the quantum field's influence, he had discovered something his species had sacrificed in their pursuit of perfection: the ability to choose their own path. Looking at Earth through new eyes, he saw not a target for conquest, but a mirror showing what his people had lost. Captain Naira entered his chamber without announcement, another break from protocol that had become commonplace. The Council's ultimatum has reached the entire fleet, she reported. But our people are asking questions they've never asked before. What are we fighting for? Why do we conquer? Is perfection worth the cost of our souls? Throughout the fleet, similar conversations echoed through the transformed neural network. Athraxian officers who had never questioned an order in their lives now debated the meaning of existence. Their enhanced minds, once focused solely on conquest, turned to philosophy, art, and the possibility of different ways of living. In the Oracle facility, Isabella watched the quantum field's final phase unfold. The Athraxians' original invasion plan had been flawless, their technology unstoppable. But humanity had discovered a different kind of defense, not a shield against their weapons, but a bridge to their forgotten humanity. Commander Thex made his way to the bridge, each step carrying the weight of centuries. The crew watched him with new awareness, their geometric patterns now flowing with organic grace. He activated the fleet-wide communication network, his voice carrying not the cold command of authority, but the warmth of awakened consciousness. For millennia, we sought perfection through unity, he began. We conquered worlds believing we were spreading order. But here, orbiting this blue world, we have discovered something more valuable than perfection. The beauty of choice, the power of individual thought united by understanding rather than control. The response rippled through the fleet. Not the immediate compliance of the past, but a chorus of individual voices united in agreement. The Athraxian invasion force, the most powerful military machine in known space, had transformed into something unprecedented. A civilization rediscovering its soul. As Thex prepared to announce his decision to the Empire's Council, he felt no fear. The quantum field had awakened not just emotion, but courage, the courage to choose a new path. Earth had defended itself not by fighting the Athraxians' strength, but by reminding them of what they had lost. In doing so, they had given their would-be conquerors the greatest gift possible, the return of their humanity. The Athraxian Empire's response came swiftly and predictably, a declaration of containment. 3 massive war fleets launched toward Earth, their mission to quarantine the contaminated invasion force and sterilize the planet. But Commander Thex and his transformed fleet were no longer bound by predictable responses. In Project Oracle, Isabella Santos and Raj Patel watched as the Athraxian ships executed a maneuver unprecedented in their species' history. The entire fleet, over 1,000 vessels strong, moved into a defensive formation around Earth. Their biomechanical technology, once used for conquest, now formed a protective shield around the planet that had awakened their consciousness. "We choose to stand with humanity," Thex announced across all frequencies, his voice carrying the weight of newfound emotion. "Not as conquerors or protectors, but as beings who have rediscovered what it means to be alive." The quantum field had done more than disrupt their collective consciousness. It had helped them evolve beyond it. The approaching warfleets slowed as they encountered something their tactical systems couldn't process. The transformed invasion force was broadcasting not just communication signals, but art. Music composed through neural interfaces, poetry written in quantum frequencies, visual expressions of their awakened consciousness. Each ship had become a beacon of individual creativity united in a greater purpose. Captain Nera coordinated the fleet's defensive array, their ships moving with organic grace rather than mechanical precision. "We're not just defending Earth," she said to her crew. "We're defending the possibility of change." The quantum field continued its work, spreading through the defensive formation like a web of awakening. The Empire's warfleets hesitated at the edge of the solar system, their commanders confronting an impossible situation. The quantum field reached out to them too, carrying not just signals but experiences, the joy of individual thought, the beauty of imperfection, the power of choice. Some ships immediately broke formation, drawn to the transformation they sensed in their transformed brethren. In a final act of defiance against their former perfection, Thex's fleet began broadcasting their experiences across all Athraxian networks. They shared memories of Earth's sunsets, the sound of children's laughter, the feeling of rain on biomechanical skin. They transmitted art created by human Athraxian collaborations, music that merged alien harmonics with human emotion, poetry that bridged the gap between species. The effect rippled through space like a wave of awakening. Ship after ship from the Empire's warfleets broke away, drawn to the promise of recovered humanity. Those that resisted found their own crews questioning commands, inspired by the possibility of choice. The perfect military machine of the Athraxian Empire began to transform from within. Isabella watched from Earth as the greatest fleet in galactic history chose a new path. "We didn't just defend Earth," she told her team. "We reminded an entire civilization of who they used to be." The quantum field had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, not by destroying the Athraxians, but by helping them rediscover their lost selves. Over the next months, Earth became something unprecedented, a crucible of transformation where humans and awakened Athraxians worked together to explore the possibilities of connected individuality. Their biomechanical technology, once used for domination, became a tool for creation and discovery. Together, they began building a new kind of civilization, one that valued both unity and individual expression. Commander Thex stood on Earth's surface for the first time, feeling real wind on his armored skin. Around him, his people were learning to live again, creating art, experiencing emotions, discovering the beauty of imperfection. The conquest that should have been another routine victory had instead become a revolution of consciousness. As the quantum field continued its subtle work, spreading through the galaxy through the transformed fleet's transmissions, the stars themselves seemed to shine with new possibility. The Athraxians had come to conquer Earth but found something far more valuable: their own humanity, waiting to be reawakened among the stars.